So the estate of Ian Fleming are still on our naughty list because they decided to censor the works of Ian Fleming. But how deep do those edits go? Well, now, thanks to the power of AI and not having a life, I am able to tell you because I've been going through Goldfinger with the power of AI to compare the old version to the censored version. And if you want to know what I found out, stay tuned. Hi guys, it's me and I'm here making another video about how angry I am at the estate of Ian Fleming. So if you aren't aware, back in, I think it was November of last year, the estate of Ian Fleming announced that they had regained the rights to the James Bond books by Ian Fleming and they were going to republish them under their own imprint, Ian Fleming Publications, for the first time to mark the 70th anniversary of the first imprint of Casino Royale. And I was stoked. How exciting is that? As a big champion of independent publishing and self-publishing, I was like, this is a key moment for the industry, because finally all those big trad pub boys are getting kicked to the side and we're getting real independent publishing and we're getting James Bond, no less, to lead the charge. But that enthusiasm was dampened when it was revealed that the estate of Ian Fleming had decided to make certain changes to the books, to censor the books. And there was a lot of outrage when it first got announced. And it was difficult for us Bond fans to know where we stood on that issue because we didn't have the full range of information to make a really good judgment call. We had certain snippets from the newspapers that were saying there were changes being made to, one of them was Dr. No, where they decided to, remove any description of the race of certain characters. I was really, really upset and I thought, bad edits. But how bad were the edits? The other thing that we had as a real problem was the fact that we didn't have a list of all of the edits. We didn't know what had been changed and in which books. The estate of Ian Fleming had given us some information and the newspaper articles had given us other bits of information. We knew, for example, that Casino Royale hadn't had any edits made to it. But our good friend David Zaritsky from the Bond Experience, he was all set to help launch the new edition of For Your Eyes Only. And he was worried about the edits being made and asked the estate of Ian Fleming to give him that information. And they gave him a list of edits. And he was like, you know what? This is too much. I'm going to step back and I don't want to be part of this. And I really respect that. I mean, as a sign of integrity, that was amazing. He could have, David Zaritsky could have gone and to all of the champagne receptions and been part of the big relaunch things. And he was like, no, we've got some standards that we have to stand by. And he did. And I have enormous respect for him. But for the rest of us, it was very difficult to know exactly where to stand. I mean, I'm a hard-line person about this. I'm like, don't go around editing books. Don't. Especially since the little snapshots of the edits we did get look really, really bad. I mean, in Dr. No, for example, they removed any racial descriptions for certain characters. Like, they would have a Negro immigration officer. And of course, Negro these days, you say that word and it's like... But back in the 50s, that's how you would describe a black person. And that's how black people would describe themselves. And I felt that it was more important to leave in the description of the race of like the immigration officer and the doctor that James Bond interacted with and then take it out, because I think it was more important to highlight the fact that the black people in Jamaica were in positions of authority and self-ruling, which indicated the decline of the British Empire at that time. That was more important to retain that information than it was to take out words that people might be offended by, hypothetically. Hypothetical people might hypothetically be offended by. So it was tricky. It was really difficult to make a judgment call on how bad these edits were without being able to know what the edits were. And I sent an email to the estate of Ian Fleming and said, can you give us a list of all of the edits that you made? And they didn't reply, because they didn't reply to my previous email either, because, I don't know, I'm just nobody. I'm just some bloke on the internet. Fair enough. But, it's really been bugging me this whole time. And I decided, after hearing that there were other Bond fans who were going to go line by line through all of the James Bond books and compare the old versions and the new versions, I decided I'd get involved with that myself. Because I'm quite clever, I am. A lot of people don't give me credit for that, but I'm quite clever and resourceful. So I decided to do exactly that. I decided I would take a James Bond book. I picked Goldfinger, and I would get the original version and compare it to the new 2023 version. And doing that isn't quite as simple as it sounds. I mean, what you could do is get an original copy like this, beautiful pan. I love these. These are my favorite covers. And then I could have bought the paperback of the new version and gone through them and compared line by line. But of course, that would take an enormous amount of time and also an enormous amount of focus and concentration. So I thought I would embrace the power of artificial intelligence and get that to do it for us, which again isn't quite as simple as it sounds. So in order to do that, to be able to compare the old version of the books to the new version of the books, first of all, you've got to have a digital copy of the old version of the book. And the problem is the only digital version of Goldfinger that you can buy now is the one that's printed. The American version is still published by HarperCollins, but I believe it's the edited version. So I could buy the Kindle version of Goldfinger from 2023, which, as far as I'm aware, have all the edits in. And then I needed to compare it to a digital version that I knew wasn't edited. So my first challenge was getting a copy of the original book, which I managed to do by sourcing a 2015 digital copy of Goldfinger from Canada. James Bond is out of copyright in Canada, so that was actually, once I knew what to look for, that was fairly straightforward to get. Then I needed to get a digital copy of the new version of the book, and the only way to do that, pay money. So I bought a digital copy, a Kindle version of the brand new 2023 HarperCollins Goldfinger on Kindle. Now, I've got the two digital versions. What do you do next? Well, one of the things that you have to do, one of the reasons why I had to buy the digital version of the 2023 version is because it's protected on Amazon Kindle, at least, by something called DRM, which is basically it's copyright protection. So you can't just like copy the file and then send it to all your friends. So I had to break that. And I'm allowed to do that. It's not illegal. Also, this is a copy of the book that I bought. So the only way you can break the DRM on a book that you buy on Kindle is actually by buying the book and putting it through your Kindle systems. So I'm quite clever to be able to do it. I mean, please, let's just establish the fact that I'm very clever. But yeah, I was able to remove the DRM from the version, the 2023 version that I bought, and then I could just feed it into AI and compare one version against the other. And do you know what I discovered when I went line by line comparing the 2015 version, which is the unedited version, to the 2023 censored version? Do you know what I found out? Absolutely bloody nothing. Yeah, I went through pretty much all of Goldfinger. I mean, haven't done it all yet. And do you know what I found out? They're pretty much identical. They really are pretty much identical. There are differences, so I know that my system works. So it's not like they're missing these huge things. But the Goldfinger, the censored version of Goldfinger compared to the original version of Goldfinger, they're pretty much identical. The biggest differences that I found were between the British version and the American version, and those things are very small. For example, in the British version, which is the 2015 one I got from Canada, they called it a dust card, and in the American version they call it a garbage card. In the Canadian version, they refer to the wine as hock, which is what British people use to describe German wine, whereas in the 2023 American version they call it Moselle, which is a more specific and accurate version of the German wine. But these are all differences made to change between a British and an American audience. Other things were like 00 versus 00, the writing out words like 300 compared to just writing the numbers 300. They were all very, very small details. There are a couple of weird ones that raised my eyebrow. There was one where, specifically that actually, in the original version, James Bond raised his voice. In the 2023 version, he raised his eyebrow. It's like, what, why? And the 2015 version, James Bond checked into a hotel. In the 2023 version, James checked into a hotel. It's like, what? Why? Why are these things different? They're just such inconsequential changes. Why are they different? I think the thing that I found really interesting was the racially charged terms. The reason I picked Goldfinger is because a lot of Goldfinger takes place in the United States. So I thought, if we're going to find smoking guns about censorship, it's probably going to be in a book that takes place in America. But funnily enough, the terms that you might find racially upsetting remain. So in both the 2015 version, the original version of the book, I say 2015 version, obviously I'm referring to the original version of Goldfinger, which was written in the 1950s. This is the unedited version, and I just happened to get a copy of that book, which was published in 2015 on Kindle. Yeah, in that, there's James Bond meets the Mexican, and the Mexican's trying to solicit him, and he says, do you like girls? Do you like coloured girls? And he uses the term coloured girl, which refers to a black girl. Because back in the 50s, you would call a black person coloured. And obviously we don't do that these days because it's considered quite offensive. But funnily enough, the 2023 version also refers to the colour girl. So it seems so odd to me that all of this fuss has been created because the estate of Ian Fleming had gone through and changed terms that were like racially insensitive. And now we got Goldfinger, and it's like, no, you didn't change the term, it's right there. And I mean, I'm fine with that because that's the way it was originally written, so you shouldn't change it. But like, if you're going to go through and edit the books and change them to be less racially insensitive, why don't you change the bits that could be racially insensitive? I mean, Goldfinger is a great example because it contains a lot of the things that people were apparently going to be upset about. So, ignoring the fact that most of the changes are there specifically to address language that Ian Fleming used referring to black people, there's language that Ian Fleming used referring to Korean people, and we were originally very upset because we were like, how come you're changing all this language to be inoffensive towards black people, but you still refer to Korean people as ruthless and describe them as eating cats? We've got Pussy Galore in here, who's a lesbian, of course, and one of the things, and Tilly Masterson as well, and James Bond has a little diatribe about homosexuality and how gay people are messed up in the head, and of course those bits remain in the 2023 version. It's like, this is the book that has some of the most like out of date and politically incorrect references in it, and it's so weird to compare the 2023 version against the original version and see like nothing's been changed. So yeah, it's left me feeling a bit confused, if you're honest, because I'm like, what's all the fuss about? Like, there in this book, and I mean, I haven't gone through I wouldn't like to say like 100%, but I've gone through pretty consistently, and I'm like, there aren't any substantial changes that aren't explained by the fact that you've got a book published in 2023 which has certain typographical differences to how a book would be published back in the 1950s. But apart from that, they're pretty much the same book, identical. And I'm like, why have we gone through all of this fuss, all of this argument? Why did I get 678 people to sign a petition not to edit the James Bond books when you didn't edit the bloody James Bond books? I mean, we know they did, and I think if they're not gonna provide us a list of all the edits that were made, we're gonna have to find them ourselves. But that is gonna be a really time-consuming process. And having gone through it with Goldfinger, I'm like, what are we gonna find? Are we actually gonna find anything? Is all this outrage justified? I have been getting really upset about this because I'm like, you can't go around changing history. You can't go around editing literature. I'm outraged that the people at Ian Fleming Publications thought that they had the authority to do that. It's like, who are they? No offense to anyone at Ian Fleming Publications, because I'm sure they're very nice people, and I'm very impressed with a lot of the stuff they've been doing. But who are a couple of people at Ian Fleming Publications to say, oh yes, we have the authority to control what other people read. We have the knowledge and the wisdom and the fair and balanced guiding hand to be able to choose what is right and what is wrong. That's just so arrogant and offensive to me. But then when you go through the edits and you see that nothing's been changed, I'm like, is this all some kind of like fake out by them Are they like, let's tell everyone we've edited the James Bond books massively, so they all get upset and make endless videos and write petitions and get really, really upset about it, and then it turns out that they didn't change anything at all? I don't know. So I'm not quite sure how to proceed with this, I'll admit. I mean, I don't really want to spend the time going through every single James Bond book to compare the old version to the new version. I mean, that also would involve having to get the new digital versions, to crack the DRM on the new digital versions. I'll have to source digital copies of the original James Bond books. I mean, that's a big operation. And it's like, is it worth it? I don't know. But it certainly, to me, it's raised more questions than it has given me answers. I'm like, what is going on? What actually got changed? Why did it get changed? I don't know. It would be really good if the estate of Ian Fleming, if Ian Fleming Publications did actually provide a list of all the edits they made to all the James Bond books. And at this point, I'm almost like, if they did so, I think outraged wankers like me will probably look at them and be like, oh, okay, then that's not really that bad. Or maybe they've only edited, I don't know. It's really weird. It's really weird because whatever editing process they went through, it seems wildly disjointed. It seems that certain books were targeted and edited and censored quite heavily, and books like Goldfinger don't seem to be touched at all. Or maybe I'm completely wrong. I mean, I have to admit, I'm making up this process as we go. So maybe there's something to do with the 2015 Canadian digital version I got compared to the 2023 American digital version I got. Maybe the edits weren't in the American versions. Maybe there were edits made to the 2015 versions. I'll have to go through the history of each book, the publication history, the editing history of it. I don't even know how much of that information is publicly available. But it raises more questions than it provides answers to, and it would be great to be able to get a little deeper into this. So, I don't know. I'll keep you posted as I find out more. I really do think at this point, the estate of Ian Fleming should just put this issue to bed. Just give us a list of the edits to the books, and then let us argue about it, and we can take it from there. But right now, I'm kind of like, why have I been making such a huge fuss about the changes that you made to the books when it seems like you haven't made that many changes to the books, or in this case, like pretty much any change? But then secondly, why have you been making such a big fuss about having changed the books if you haven't changed the books? Are you just playing us now? Is this all just something to drum up a bit of scandal and argument, just to make people talk about the books? Who knows? So transparency from the estate of Ian Fleming would be appreciated. If anybody's out there and is interested in helping me out with this project, I know there are other people independently doing it. Like, I have a process. I know exactly how to be able to fairly quickly and fairly accurately go through each book line by line and be able to compare what changed and what didn't. And it's not a straightforward process, but once you understand it, it's fairly easy to do. So if you're interested in helping me out with that, let me know in the comment section down below, or drop me a message on Instagram or something like that. Otherwise, I'll keep you posted as I find out more. But yeah, I'm not even sure what to think about it at this point. I'm like, what is going on, the estate of Ian Fleming? Here we are. We're here for you, guys. Like, you got Charlie Hickson back in. You just published a fantastic book. You turned it around in a few weeks. You're really kicking butt. Can we just get this issue put to bed? And then let's look forward to the future of all of the amazing things that Ian Fleming Publications are going to do. Because this is hanging on longer than it should. And we Bond fans are entirely reasonable people. So if you can help us out a bit, we'll be able to help you out a bit by, like, finally stopping talking about this. So, I don't know. Let me know your thoughts down in the comment section below, and I'll be back soon with another video. And until then, ciao. I'm Roland Hume. I've sold 67,000 copies of my books. If you want to find out how I did it, I've got a link right here you can click. And otherwise, don't forget to subscribe. I've got more videos coming soon. Thank you.